'Cause I feel like there is that thing going on in the world where we all like bury our feelings and what we feel because we don't want to appear like too much, or we don't want to show our vulnerability. A lot of people are feeling these things you're feeling right now, but they're not talking about it. That's why you're feeling like you're the only one. It's because it's hard to talk about, but we should be talking about these things that are hard for that reason, so we can all connect, because it's like human nature to want to connect with people.
I will run, I will rise, I will grow like the world's never known.
All right, so today I chat with Eileen Lamb, who I interviewed last year for the magazine. So I interviewed her for volume 34, and I just sat down and chatted with her. I've been looking at doing a children's book. I've talked about it before, and I've done, for the last 6 years, done self-publishing, and so I talked to her about traditional publishing and kind of getting the inside of how, or her experience going the traditional publishing route versus independent or indie publishing. It's a really good conversation. She is one of my favorite people to talk with, and let's get into it. There we go.
Cool.
And we're off to the races. So it's nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you. It's been a while.
I know. How have you been through everything?
Good. It's been tough to have the boys at home all the time. Charlie's back in therapy now, so that's nice, but it's a bit scary too, because the COVID cases in Texas are like so bad right now. But he needs it. He needs therapy, or else he just like loses his skills, he loses his words. So we made the decision to put him back in therapy for now. But if the situation gets too crazy, we're gonna pull him back from therapy.
Yeah, but so far it's been okay.
Yeah, so far. I mean, he didn't get the virus, so
yeah,
that's good.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know if it's been the same in Austin, but in San Antonio, it's like after quarantine, everything's been skyrocketing here. Is it the same up there?
Yeah, I mean, it's because they reopened too early, like most states, it stayed closed for a long time. And well, California is pretty bad too right now, as they closed again, so I don't know. But like in France, really? They closed and they did that lockdown for like 2 months, and you needed an authorization to go out. Like it was really, really strict. And now their cases are just like, they're living life like nothing happened. I think they got like 600 cases in a day, which is, in a country, pretty much nothing. Like we got 10,000 in Texas, just in Texas.
Yeah. So. No, we have about 1,500 a day. So like that's more than they had the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Austin around 1,000, I think. I'm not sure though. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I stopped watching after a while. It's like it got real crazy. It's like nothing's really changed for me. I don't go outside. I mean, I go like walking and jogging, but like in the neighborhood, there's no one here. I wear a mask. I'm not seeing anybody, so it's like I don't know.
Yeah, it's same for me, except I can't go to the bar with my friends anymore. It's basically the difference. And the school for the kids is really what's been hard. I mean, for you too, right?
Yeah, especially for you though. I like talking with you because when I look at a lot of the world that you live in, the approach that I took when I interviewed you for the magazine and stuff, it was to like pull out the entrepreneur side, like you running a small business. And I think that gets lost a lot of times when we think about bloggers. We don't recognize they're running a business, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm curious from your side. Just like me, I have a day job that I have to take care of, and so it's hard to manage kids, but you still have clients and everything.
Yeah, but less. It's been really hard during the
hang on. My kids are actually at the door.
all good. Did it just like come here out of the blue?
Well, so Ayla, I woke up this morning and Ayla was like, "Can you please come over and make lemonade?" And so I'm like, "Okay." So I went over before I had to start working. So they brought me the lemonade. So that's what they were. They wanted to bring me a cup to make sure I had some because I could go over for a minute and then I had to go back to get to work. Yeah, they just
That's so
stopped by.
sweet. That's awesome. I like that you have a
Yeah.
good relationship.
Yeah, it's something that I want to talk about at some point, but it's still like we're still in the thick of things, and so it's definitely um, still really fresh, and so I haven't discussed about it. But I do think that the way that we're navigating the situation is really good. It's the fact that we could both be adults and approach it in a way that like what's honestly good for the kids. I think it's something that I didn't really hear a lot about, when we started going down and separating, and so it's definitely hard, but
Yeah, it
yeah,
seems
I'm
awesome.
glad that that we want to get to a place where we could both uh, be good parents and not like try and demonize the other person, but
Yeah,
just like I don't think that's healthy for the kids, and so yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, not that you divorced, but the way you're handling it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you know y- I don't I don't think anyone goes into marriage thinking about wanting to get divorced. For the most part, maybe some do, but most people don't. But it's like when you're faced with a situation, it's like how do you address it in the best way possible? I think is like, okay, well, we're in it, so how do we navigate this without it getting confrontational and ugly? So
Doing good.
yeah, I do think that I don't mean to like hover on this, but I do think the important thing is that we talked a lot about is like we came into the relationship with love and we were determined to leave it with love. And from that perspective, I think when you approach something that way, we've really tried to handle it in a way of caring for the other person, even though we are deciding not to be together. I don't know. It's a weird situation, but
No, yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said about um, leaving in love. So
It's beautiful. I
I
like
didn't
it.
mean to have all that happen. I didn't. Thanks
Uh,
for sitting there through. Actually, that lemonade's pretty good. I'm gonna drink it.
Go for it.
Um, what were we talking about before? We were interrupted. I'm sorry.
The entrepreneur side of the business.
Oh yeah, and it was kind of how you're handling it.
Right now, yeah, because there's a lot less work with COVID. It's starting to pick back up, but especially at the beginning, so basically brands pay me to create content for them and to post on my social media. And either brands were like totally overwhelmed, like, hand sanitizer brand, cleaning products, food delivery, or their business was going under. And so they didn't have like budget for advertising. So it was really like a tough place to navigate. And I had 2 very, very difficult months there. And also, yeah, it's been hard for me to find time during this pandemic to just like sit down and work on my like writing and my personal projects and photography because, I have the kids home all the time. So no more free time. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Last time we were chatting, you talked about your second book, and I'm really interested to kind of see where that project's at.
Yeah, actually, there's the second book, so I wrote like 80% of it now. So it's, I wanted to go a different route this time. I wanted to have the book finished before I pitch it. First time I did a book proposal, so I had, layout, and it's called a book proposal, and like a few sample chapters, and that's how I pitched my first book. But for this one, I wanted to have the entire book written and be like, this is my manuscript. Do you want it or not? So right now I'm 80% done with the manuscript. But on the side, I decided to write a book, kind of like the first, about autism, but in French to a French audience. And so I started pitching literary agents in France. And I found one, a guy who was born in America. Of course, I would always find something to tie me back to the US, even in France. So my agent is actually, I guess, American technically, but he lives in France. And so he's going to pitch my book to French publishers, which is going to be about autism too. And I'm super excited because they really need the, books about it. They don't know much. Like autism in the US, you ask pretty much anyone and they'll tell you a thing or two about it that's accurate. In France, people don't know. So it was really important for me to get that subject out there in my native language.
Yeah, that's interesting. So this isn't like translating your first book into French. This is completely for that audience particular, having grown up in that system, and then kind of reflecting back and saying, here's how we can improve in this area, your homeland. That's interesting.
Because at first I was like, I'm just gonna translate it, like I was looking into translation rights and stuff, but I talked to the agent and he was like, I feel like this needs to be to a completely different audience right now. So how do you feel about like rewriting the book? I'm like, I'm happy you said that, because that's what I want to do. So if you're on board, let's pitch this as a completely new book. So that's what we're doing. And I'm waiting right now and to hopefully hear from a publisher in France.
So I'm really interested in kind of digging. We didn't talk as much about this in our other interview, but I'm interested in understanding. So I do self-publishing, independent publishing or whatever, independent author, or however you want to say it. And so I'm interested in understanding your experience in going traditional publishing versus just publishing it yourself. Like, what made you choose that way?
I have no experience publishing it myself, so I wouldn't know what to do, first of all. And I just like wanted the support so I could focus completely on like writing the book. I needed a professional to take care of the rest, The first book, I skipped the literary agent part and went straight from my book to a publisher, which is rare. Usually you need the middleman, the literary agent. And so like for this book, the French book, I'm doing it the traditional way. I got the agent and now I'm waiting for the agent to find me the publisher, which is the traditional way of doing things.
And how involved are you still in the process for the other book, the original one that you published? You essentially you do the upfront work, writing it and the photographs, and then you hand it to them. They put it all together, they market it, and then they just send you a check. Then do you have any rights to it?
Yeah. I earn royalties on it. But as far as like promoting the books is really like I'm doing most of the work right now. As of now, it's been a year almost since it was published, and I went with a small publishing company for my first book, and so that's probably why. But it's basically we're just hoping that someone will pick it up that has a very big audience, and like hoping that the book will fall into the right hands that's gonna give it a big public audience.
And so for this the second book, you're in France, you're hoping that gets into, is that still looking to be at a small publishing place, or you're hoping that it gets to a bigger one? Or
Yeah, because I have a literary agent for this one, I'm hoping he can like get me, a deal with a big publishing company in France, so I will get like a lot of support, post production, and the advertising part too. They have bigger budgets obviously for that stuff. So that's my hope. I'm just waiting right now. It's the waiting game, and I'm just like checking my emails, hoping that something will come, but nothing yet. So
you haven't looked at doing self-publishing at all?
no, I haven't. I guess I could, but it just seems like so much easier to focus on the writing and someone handles the rest. I can still do some promoting on my side, obviously, because of my audience, but yeah, it seems like a lot of work, and it seems like by getting a publisher, you increase your chances at getting the books in, because like I said, they have budgets for marketing.
Right. Yeah, it's not upfront cost for you. There's no inventory, like they're handling all of that, right? Yeah. So how has it been the second time around now then, like after having the experience you have of getting the first one out, and you've been doing your blog for like 8 or 10 years, right? Like
more like 5 or 6. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's still a long time.
Yeah. So you've had several years under your belt writing and interacting with the community. You already published your first one, and this second book is actually different than the one we talked about.
Yeah, it is.
Which is
technically
funny.
It's the third. So I'm publishing the third, but I'm still working on that second one we talked about last time. Yeah, I'm super excited about the second book. It's the one that I put the most like time in so far. I've been working on it for almost 2 years. Yeah. I started writing it when my first one wasn't even published. So I feel like, it's like my baby, that second book. Like I'm so happy my first book was published, but that second one is just, and it's so vulnerable, and I talk about so many different topics, and I feel like it has the potential to help so many people. It is completely different from my first book. Yeah, I'm excited about it, and I would love to finish it soon.
It's funny because like, would you have ever considered when you're growing up, would you ever thought, I'm going to be an author when I grow up, I'm going to publish books? Like, was that, I know you talked about you always wanted to publish a book, but did you think that would be your career? I mean, it's like you have 2 careers, right? You're a content creator. But then I feel like that offsets your passion for really wanting to write and connect through. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the way I think about it is that I do, I love what I do with creating content for brands. But like, I don't know if that's a career. It's so nice right now because, I can write and do photography and make money at the same time. Basically, it's everything I love, right? But my passion, it is the writing. It's just not something that makes money right now. Let's be honest here. Being a writer is really hard unless you're a best-selling author. So right now I see my content creator job as a way to hopefully in the future, be a successful author and writer. But right now I need both sides. So no, I never thought I would be a writer, author as my main career, but I'm hoping that one day, like maybe next time we talk, I'll just be an author and living of it. That would be really cool.
So that's really interesting. Part of it is like, do you think that you'll always, even if you were your main income was through your books, do you think you'd only do that? Would you continue to do the other stuff?
Yeah, I would. Maybe not as intensely. Like right now, I'm maybe like to pitch brands, find brands to work with. Not everything come to me, so I have to put in a lot of work myself. I think if I was a successful author, I would wait and see what comes my way, and only do that. I wouldn't put that much effort into looking for partnerships and campaigns, jobs. Yeah.
I kind of asked that question because I feel like even if I were, doing photos and videos and content creation for my main job, like just the personality that I am, I'm always starting new projects. I'm always initiating new, like pushing myself in new directions. And I'm like, like I'm going to publish my first children's book. And that's why I wanted to talk to you, is because like, I have another friend who has published a children's book, and then I know that you've published, both her and you, through traditional means, and I've published now 5 magazines, and so I understand like the self-publishing side, and there's the give and take, but it's like, and when I hear the way that you're talking, it makes sense why you would want to go traditional, because like for me, one of the things that I like about self-publishing is that I control everything, and I get to, like, the creative side of doing that is what I love. Like I it's part of, like, the writing is part of the art, part of the figuring out where I get it printed, and the marketing. Like, I like the process of creating the product.
Yeah.
Whereas you're like, I wanted to create, like, you just wanted to do the writing and then have the team do it. So, it makes sense, that at least in the little bit that I've started to read, because I was only thinking about, I was just going to self-publish it, but now, some of the friends that I've been talking to, they're like, it's not a bad idea. And this goes back to what I was talking about, of like, part of the reason I start projects is because I want to try new things. So since I've been doing, I've published 5 magazines. I know exactly how I could do it. And like that, the publishing part and a lot of that isn't hard. But like in my back of my mind, I've been thinking, I kind of want to try the traditional route, to do something new, to have another angle. And then I've also been thinking about like, doing a Kickstarter. One of the people that I follow, Jeff Sheldon, who runs Ugmonk, I kind of reached out because he has a big, well, I shouldn't say big, but he has a really strong group of followers that, purchase a lot of his stuff. And so he has like a really good base. And so I was like, well, why did you do Kickstarter and not just do a campaign on your own site? And basically he was just like, it was to get exposure, to get presented to audiences that don't normally know him or know his brand. And it was a product that could get outside of his normal brand. So that's kind of where I've been thinking is, exposure in different ways. But from what it sounds like, what the research that I've been doing, one of the things that it seems like I would kind of have a struggle with, and I'm interested to hear your side, is that you give up a lot of the freedoms of the decisions of how it ends up.
I don't think that's true, because like, for instance, like, you're so good with design and formatting and all of that stuff. Like, your magazine is like so beautiful, like every little detail, like, so that's amazing. Like someone like me, I can do that, but I know when something looks good though, and I can really tell, like, the little attention to details that you have. And for me, I needed someone to do that for me, and the publisher did it for me. But they're like, you tell us anything you don't like, we're not gonna publish this book if you don't like it. And same with the covers. They sent me a bunch of covers, and they told me, this is my first choice. This is our first choice, the one we like the best, and I didn't agree. And in the end, they were like, well, you know what? It's your decision. So if that's not the cover you want, we'll listen to you. So in the end, I did have, like the final word, and you do still have freedom. But yeah, like I said, they are still the one who came to me with the different like designs and stuff, but I still have the final word. So for me, it's perfect because I get to basically have people do the work for me while I still get the freedom. If I had your skills, I don't know if I would go. I probably would still go with the traditional way of doing it and finding a publisher, just because of the possibility of finding a big publisher, and then you get all that advertising and marketing and the advice and all of that. It opens more doors than if you do it yourself, like you're really on your own. And I just kind of like having people to go to for help. Yeah.
And I think that's part of why I want to do a traditional route, is to learn those pieces and then pull them back into the other stuff that I do, right? Like I'm going to continue to publish my magazine. So it's almost like a mentorship for me, right? Like, how are they doing? I've been through a lot of the steps. So what is it that they're doing and that I can learn from and kind of pull in house for the next project. So part of it is like strategic in wanting to just learn the industry in a way that I couldn't by just trying my own thing, by getting with people that, like you said, that's their full job. Like they get the people to execute on your vision. And so being able to know those and interact with those people, I think would be really interesting from my perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Do it.
So why does it need to be a publisher? This might be a stupid question, but why does it have to be a publisher in France and not you keep going with the person that you've done and they just, market it in France for you?
Well, I feel like a publisher in France, like, first of all, they have all the connections in France to advertise the book to, And like I said, my first book was a small publisher, and I kind of have like this big vision for the French book, because in the US, there are so many books about autism, but in France, my book will be, especially from the perspective of an autistic mother raising a severely autistic child, like kind of like one of a kind,
Yeah.
And so I feel like I have the potential to get a big publisher that will have all these ties and, relations with different people in France, where here, like, I don't want this book to be in the US, so it doesn't really make sense for me to do this here.
Yeah, that makes sense. It seems a lot like colleges. Like you go to the college, a lot of the times it's the connections that the college has. Like when you're looking where you want to go, you're seeing, who do they connect with? What are the jobs that the brands that they're connected with, and then that'll give you a door, an entry into what you really want to do. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, connections.
So are those, do you do anything outside of these projects then? Is it really just like, I think even when I talked to you last time, I didn't even realize how much of a passion you had to be an author.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize either until I just decided one weekend that I was going to start pitching literary agents in France. And no kidding, it took me like 2 weeks to find an agent, when for my first book, I tried for 6 months and never got it. But with this book, it took me 2 weeks. Like, I don't know. I was so like stubborn on that goal, and I'm just like email. And I really wanted that guy because he was like from the US, and I felt like we would connect better than, like, I have a hard time with French people. I would connect better with him. And I guess I was right, because I got the agent I wanted. And to me, that was just like crazy, like that. I did research on all the literary agents in France, and I managed to get the one I wanted, which is crazy to me, since I didn't even get one for my first book. I got all no's from literary agents in the US.
So let's dig into that. Like, how long was that process? So you you were like, I have this idea for this book. You talk to the publisher and they're like, that seems like it's a different book, right? And then so now you start the agent suggests that you should look in France. What's that time period?
So it's a bit different. So what happens is I was like, because on Instagram I get a lot of DMs from people in France. They're like, oh, I would love to read your book, French translation, blah blah blah. And I was just like, okay, I really got to do it. So many people have been asking me, and so that's what started it. And one weekend I had time, and I was like, you know what? I'll start writing a proposal. And then I started looking for agents the same weekend, so same day. And I read about a bunch of literary agents in France. Apparently in France, it's different. It's not the mainstream way to go about getting published. You can skip the agent in France, but I still really wanted to do it through an agent too, because they have connection with publishers. Anyway, so I started pitching people, literary agents, and I pitched that guy because he was American and I liked his story and his vibe. And
by pitch, you mean send emails or call on the phone? Or?
No, you send an email and you're like, hey, my name is Eileen and I have this project and I'm looking to be for representation, basically. And so I emailed him. I pitched him my book project. And what I pitched him was the translation of the book. And then he came back to me and was like, I'm really interested in your project, but what do you think about writing a new book, like on the same subject, but to a different audience? Yeah, he had read my book. I'd sent him the manuscript of my first book, and that's when he said that. And I was like, yeah, I just love that idea. And that was it.
Oh, so he was the one who gave you the suggestion to create a new book from it. Okay.
Yeah.
I had that backwards.
Yeah.
Okay. That's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Holy cow. So is it always going to be this genre? Or do you see, well, I like, they kind of all live in that kind of memoir, like your point of view, educational type realm, or do you see yourself also getting into children's books or fantasy or anything? Does any of that interest you, or is it really just around this same topic?
First book, so was that style. The French book will be that style too, but my second book is not like that at all. It's more, I don't want to say poetry, but a little bit, I think, and like self-motivation. Well, motivation for other people, like, things that it's like the things I have learned that I wish I had known when I was younger, and yeah, it doesn't fall into the same category as the other books. And this is really the thing that makes me happiest when I write. Like when I write about autism, I feel like I'm being useful to a lot of people. So that makes me feel good because I feel like it's helpful. But that's not what puts fire, in my stomach. That's not what I live for. It's really the other kind of writing. And if I had to choose, that's what I would want to write all day, every day, and make a living out of. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely connect with you. I think that was the drive for all the stuff that my approach was, what do I wish I would have known when I was 18, right? I definitely resonate with what you're talking about. My approach though is like, I don't know about writing a book in the sense of like sitting down. I like to do a lot of things, and so that's why I think the magazine works for me. It's because it's like snippets of like throughout my life that it takes, it's a compilation, like every year is just relative to the context that I'm in. And so they all have their own kind of like what I'd prescribe to someone, like, just starting out, like read the first one because that was my path. like that's where I was. And so you can kind of like pick where you are in the journey and then read the things where I'm at. I don't know that I could sit down knowing how my mind works and like really get on one subject and like fill like a real book.
Well, that's how I am too. That's why my second book is so good, because I talk about like friendships, relationships, like love, dreams. I talk a lot about dreams, anxiety, overthinking, self-doubts. It's a lot of different subjects, but they all have the same goal, is to make people feel less alone, because I feel like there is that thing going on in the world where we all like bury our feelings and what we feel, because we don't want to appear like too much, or we don't want to show our vulnerability, and then it ends up making us feel more alone. It's kind of vicious circle, right? We don't talk about it, so we think that the other people don't feel the same way, and it's just like never ending. So with the second book, I kind of feel like I want to break the cycle and tell people, a lot of people are feeling these things you're feeling right now, but they're not talking about it. That's why you're feeling like you're the only one. It's because it's hard to talk about, but we should be talking about these things that are hard for that reason, so we can all connect, because it's like human nature to want to connect with people. But one way to connect is to like open up, and that's one thing that humans have a really hard time doing, right? So that's kind of where I want to go, is that book.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I've been excited ever since you explained it. When the first interview, I've been excited to read it, because I think the core part of both of us is speaking the same language, right? And that's why I'm excited to read it, because I think it's funny how there's so many similarities between we completely different lives and everything, but the things that drive us, we're actually very, very similar.
I agree.
In a lot of them.
Yeah.
Sorry, did I cut you off?
Do you know the Myers-Briggs test?
Yes.
Do you know your letters?
No.
You need to do it. I have a feeling I know what you are.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it, and I'll text you, and we'll see if you're right.
Yeah, you should do it. Yeah.
There's a personality test that I'll send you, a 16 personality test. I think that's what it's called.
Well, that's the Myers-Briggs, whatever you said.
Oh. Then
4 letters.
Oh, then I do know what I'm a campaigner. They present it in a different way. Hang on.
Look it up.
Okay, I will tell you what I am. I'm a campaigner. ENFP. I can't even read. ENFP. Yeah.
There you go. I knew it.
What?
That is so crazy. I'm an INFP, and I feel like we're the same, except you're just a bit more outgoing and like social. So I knew the NFP part is just very, the stuff we're talking about.
That's so cool.
Extrovert, and I introvert, and I'm more of an introvert, and you're more of an extrovert, but it's other letters, same stuff.
Yeah. When I was reading through it, I was like, yeah, that really is me. Yeah. Except for I felt really good because because it has a lot of the pros and then the cons, and I was just like, I don't know that I agree with the cons. I feel like I handle those pretty well. But yeah, that's so funny. I'm gonna have to go back and read back through it.
It's so accurate. Honestly, it's blew my mind the first time I took that test, and now every time I see stuff about INFP, I'm like, oh my god! Like I feel like someone is just like knows all my secrets. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah,
that's awesome. Do you do a lot of interviews in French?
I've never done one in French. I've done a couple written ones, but never talking, never video. Yeah.
We're doing it next time. we're gonna do it. It's gonna be all in French.
Yeah, let's do
Oh
it.
my gosh, because I've never done an interview in French. But I was just gonna say, like, I wanted to call and just chat with you in French because I don't like you're the only person I know. I don't get to practice it with anybody.
We need to do it.
So next time we'll just chat in French. It probably won't be this long because I won't be able to go this long in French. It's I'm a lot more I don't know, maybe you feel this way. I feel like I'm a different person when I speak in French.
Mhm.
It's not I can't express myself the same.
Yeah,
And so
no, of course.
it's much more I feel like it turns into it's like transactional almost. Not as much of my personality comes out. That was actually one of the reasons that I was telling you, like, my son, the oldest, Pax, from the time that he was born till he was 4, I think 4 or 5. I spoke to him exclusively in French um, until he was able to like verbalize to me. He's like, he went to preschool and he realized that that wasn't normal for people for their dad to only speak to them in French, and so he was just kind of like, please don't do that anymore. And
Oh,
I was kind of a relief because I wanted him to know me, and I didn't feel like there was still a barrier from what I was able to express. And I don't
yeah,
know, because you've been in the States for
9 years.
uh, 9 years. Do you still feel that way, or do you feel like completely comfortable in English?
It's the opposite now. I feel like because I learned to express my feelings in English. Like it's not something I did in French. So for me, it's the
Oh,
opposite. I feel a lot more comfortable. Like if I were to say the same thing in French, I would feel like so vulnerable and like it would be much harder. It's weird to explain, but yeah, that's how I feel. But also, in a way, I'm more comfortable in my words in French just because it's my native language and it comes to me more easily. No, maybe not always anymore because I don't speak it. So people are always like, seriously, you can forget your native language? I'm like, if you don't speak it for 9 years, yeah, you're gonna lose it. Like I forget some words, I have to like Google it, and it's like ridiculous. Like writing in French for that book, it's been so hard, you know. And I don't know how I'm
really?
gonna do it, but yeah, it's a lot harder. But that's 9 years of not speaking or writing French, other than bonjour, comment ça va with my parents a couple of times a month. So yeah.
But I thought you go back and visit. You used to go annually, right?
Yeah, I went once in 9 years.
Oh, no, I thought you
Yeah.
went like every year you go.
No, no, I went
It's
once in 9 years.
really,
Hmm.
holy cow. So when's the last time you were in France?
2014.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So it's been a minute.
yeah. And I moved here in 2011.
So when you go back, do do
When
you
I
talk to your parents? Or yeah,
Yeah,
do you talk to your
yeah.
parents in English then?
No, no, they don't speak English. I speak to them in French.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So you talk to them in French. I thought
yeah.
you were saying that's all I thought you were literally saying all you say is bonjour comme ça va.
No, no. But what I'm saying
It's
is that we don't really have long conversations. It's
right.
very basic, so that's you're gonna forget words that are more complicated that you would find in writing, in books, or in longer conversations, because it's very small talk when I talk to my parents or friends. It's nothing deep, so you forget that other part of language. I forget like grammatical stuff, like in which where do you put the it's so different in French and English, and sometimes it gets mixed up, and yeah.
I mean, I'm really excited to chat again next time in French because I won't be as
Mm.
I'm always nervous because I'm
No.
like, oh, they're gonna see how horrible I am at speaking French because I haven't. The last time I was in France was 2007.
Well,
So
yeah, that's
yeah, and so then my son was born in '09, and so '09 to 2013. I think is when he asked me to stop. So, and even that, it was like talking to a mirror, because like he would respond when he was younger, he'd respond in French. But then once I went to work full time and I wasn't going to school, because he used to talk to his mom in English and then me in French. He his first words were in French, and he could go back and forth. But then once he stopped seeing me every day, is when he stopped responding. And then at that point, it really became like, you just feel like you're talking to yourself, because he's responding in English, and it was getting really difficult to keep that up. So it was, I don't know.
I twist Jude too, so I feel you.
Yeah.
I speak in easy, or like, I don't understand. What are you saying? Please say it in English. And then, you just want him to understand, so you say it in English, and it's hard to do. Like, people are like, oh, just speak to him in French. I'm like, yeah, I mean, theoretically, that would be great, but it's a lot harder than it sounds,
Yeah.
Especially when, like, I started late with Jude, which probably was the mistake. We were just afraid that, Charlie being on the spectrum, that I didn't want to confuse Jude with language. I just wanted him to, like,
right.
talk. But yeah, now he's just like, he understands a little bit, but it's not conversational,
Yeah.
So,
for the longest time, my son was convinced that he knew how to speak French. He just like talked about it. He's like, oh yeah, I speak French. And then I'm like, really? Okay. Like, let's have a conversation. I'd start talking to him. He's like, voiture. That was it. That was his word. He's like, oh yeah, I know it. Like, I can say this word. But it was funny because for him, language, so he's in Spanish immersion, and like language is just like another skill to him. He's like, hey, now that I'm learning Spanish, he's like, I'd like to learn French, and then after that, I'm going to learn Chinese. And I'm like, cool.
That's awesome.
It's like, it's the fact that it's like learning math or learning something else. Whereas like I didn't grow up like learning another language in America. Like, you do it in high school, you have a few years, and you don't really learn it.
Yeah.
We're just not exposed to it because we're isolated compared to everywhere else. So, it's different. Anyways, we've kind of run over a little bit, but it was awesome chatting with you.
Yeah, that was
for sure. I want to do another conversation, and we're going to do it all in French. And I'm nervous to do it, but it'll be your first interview.
French interview, so special.
Yeah, by an American guy that hasn't spoken in years.
See, I'm telling you, I always find a way to get back to America, even with French stuff. It's so funny to me.
So you said the same thing. I feel the same way about France.
Really?
Like when you look at like Trois Vies, is, 3 lives, is like everything that I do is like, I felt like I had my own experience from the other side, being raised in America and then going over to France and being like feeling more comfortable with a lot of the culture there than here, which is, but that's what was funny when you were like, I didn't ever fit in. I'm like, really? I don't feel like I fit in here, but I feel like I fit in with you. Like, so I don't understand how that happens.
Yeah. We have to talk more about that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for coming on and being part of the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I didn't even explain to you the show. It's Evolution of One. The concept, it's kind of some of the stuff that you hit on. It made me want to like circle back to it, but the idea was, with all the stuff going on, I felt like when you look at social media and everything, it's really these algorithms that helps you only see the things that you agree with. And so like Evolution of One was like, my goal is to become a better person. So it's my journey of evolving of one into a better person by challenging my assumptions. And that's the whole thing with like Black Lives Matter. It's not me. It's me bringing up the conversations and not pointing and saying like other people need to change. It's saying like, I have my own prejudices and biases that I need to confront. And the only way I could do that is by having open dialogue with other people that have new perspectives that I can try on, see how it feels, and be open to being wrong. And so just creating that that space to talk with regular people. Like I don't have access to celebrities or anything, but I think there's something to be said about just common people openly discussing challenging assumptions and to create newer, better belief systems.
Yeah, I love that. So cool.
Yeah. So thank you for being a part of it, and we'll definitely have to have another conversation. I can't wait.
We will. Thank
All right.
you.
See you later.
Bye-bye. During
hang on. My kids are actually at the door. 1 second. What's up? Hey, I'm actually recording something right now. That's okay. You guys want to come say hi to Eileen? This is my friend. I don't know if they can.
Hi. Bonjour. How are you doing?
There we go.
Can you say hello?
Yeah, they can see you.
You guys say bonjour?
Bonjour. Comment ça va?
Yeah.
That's how you say it in French too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. It's
Lemonade.
very important that she needed you to try the lemonade.
Okay. Sorry, Eileen.
And Mika has something special to give you. And then we'll leave.
Oh, wow.
Poppy. But the funny part about this is that this is Mama and this is you. I think this is your gas tank. She has a gas tank and
Wow, this is really cool.
hey, Poppy,
Marguerite,
this. The
What
funny
is
thing
this?
is, you know what? The stars are bigger than.
Oh,
Funny thing
cool.
is, the stars
We
are
didn't
bigger
should
than
have called guys because we didn't know he was working.
That's
So
okay.
we gotta let Poppy continue to work.
Yeah,
Okay?
So, Poppy,
Yes.
I want to tell you, this is like some cupcake stuff that and like on Sunday, I think Mama and me thought that we like throw a little party.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you're invited.
So
Okay.
you're invited, but
You gonna use
and
that
then
here?
there it's like the cupcakes and stuff.
Okay.
And I was thinking maybe sometime.
We actually interrupted.
I'll FaceTime you after I'm done, okay?
Maybe like near.
Yes.
No. I also want to say that this is
Okay.
like. Do you mind if you guys on the day where we're going to like
Yes.
so you have like just sometimes like get those ingredients
Okay.
for us.
I will.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
See you guys. It's okay. See ya. All right.